Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Anirudh, and in today's video we will be discussing about the Israeli-Palestinian history. Many of you might have heard the recent unrest in Israel, but I have noticed that many people around me don't know the historical reasons that have fueled this conflict. This will be a three-part series discussing about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Also guys, please note that I am not deciding as to which country is correct or wrong in this video. I will just provide the facts and you guys can decide in the end who is right and who isn't. So let's get right into the video.
Israeli-Palestinian History, Part 1. In this video, we will be learning about the creation of the State of Israel, the Arab-Israeli Wars, and one of the attempts at peace between the Jews and the Arabs. The creation of a Jewish state. When we talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, we usually think it's a conflict between two religions, but this isn't right. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a conflict between two communities over the same territory, and contrary to people's belief, this has been going on for less than a century. During the 1900s, the region we now call Israel and Palestine was under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. The place had a Christian and Muslim majority and a Jew minority who lived in relative peace. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed and Palestine fell under British rule. In this map, we can see that Palestine was under the control of the Ottoman Empire in the 1900s. 1918 and 1919, after the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, the British and French implemented the 1916 Sykes-Picot Agreement and divided the Arab world into nation-states. The League of Nations recognized these borders and allotted mandates to the French and British to govern these states until it was determined that they were ready for independence. Palestine was one of the mandates. Britain decided to create a separate state for the Jews in the newly captured territory of Palestine. More and more people started moving to Palestine, mostly because of two reasons. The first being Zionism, which was an ideology that stated that Judaism wasn't just a religion, but a nationality which deserved its own state. The second reason was the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany and the subsequent Holocaust, the mass killing of the Jews by the Nazis. The map on the left was the UN proposed plan of creating a Jewish state. 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The Arab countries consider a Jewish state right next to their doorstep a risk too big. Arabian countries, that is Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, invade Israel just after it acquired independence. Israel counterattacks and wins the war. The map on the right shows the territories that Israel captured after it won the war of 1948. At the end, it controlled all territories except Gaza, which was controlled by Egypt, and the West Bank, which was controlled by Jordan. Arab-Israeli War of 1967. Due to tensions between Israel and the neighboring Arab countries, that is Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, they fought another war which lasted 6 days. Again, Israel was victorious. In this war, Israel seized the Golan Heights from Syria, West Bank from Jordan, and the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Israel now occupied all the Palestinian territories, including the western part of the holy city of Jerusalem. Arab-Israeli War of 1973. Egypt was humiliated by its defeat in the War of 1967 and wanted the Sinai Peninsula back from Israel. With the help of the USSR, that is the Soviet Union, and other Arab countries like Syria and Jordan, Egypt attacked Israel. Initially, Egypt was victorious, but Israel quickly mobilized their troops and halted the Arab advances. Later, a ceasefire was agreed upon. Aftermath of the Arab-Israeli War of 1973, the borders between the countries remained relatively the same. The Camp David Accords of 1978. Both Israel and Egypt signed the Camp David Accords, which was brokered by the United States, according to which Israel ceded the Sinai Peninsula back to Egypt but retained the Gaza Strip. These accords were highly controversial in the Arab world, and the then Egyptian president Anwar Sadat was assassinated because of these accords. But in the coming decades, even the other Arabian countries started making peace deals with Israel. The aftermath. Status of Palestine. Palestine was still under Israeli control, which meant that the Israelis had to govern the Palestinians, both of whom were bitter enemies in the past. This is when the conflict became an exclusive Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Birth of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. It was formed in the 1960s, who initially wanted the whole of Palestine, that is Israel, under their control. The skirmishes between Israel and the PLO continued even in the Israel-Lebanon War of 1982. Later, their agenda was to divide the land between Israel and the new independent state of Palestine. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, Israelis were moving into the West Bank and Jerusalem. They were called the settlers. The UN deemed this illegal, but their numbers kept increasing. Some were moving because of the religious reasons, others because they claimed West Bank was Israeli territory, and others moved there simply because housing was affordable. We will learn as to what response the Palestinians gave to this in part 2 of this series. Thank you very much guys for watching this video. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series. Please like this video, comment down below and subscribe to my channel. Also share this video to people who are curious.